Welcome to the BAM Sports Show.
I carefully place all of it in various trash cans around.
Any other headlines you guys are interested in tomorrow?
I'll poop in a urinal.
It's going to be a wet one.
He shoots. He scores. You suck.
Rick's wife is going to make him sleep in the bathroom tub tonight.
A dark horse candidate of where I may eventually want to end up living for good.
Welcome to a brand new sports show experience coming through your wavelengths. Let's get ready to have some fun. So sit back, crack open a drink, and let's talk some sports.
Heyo, and welcome to the BAM Sports Show. This time, once again, without BAM himself. This is kind of an impromptu show. First show live on Facebook outside of our normal streams on Twitch.
Popping the cherry.
YouTube. Yeah, popping the Facebook cherry. Here we go. Got once again with me a special guest, Charles, or as I like to call him, Chuck, good buddy of mine from a couple of weeks ago, here to talk about his Dallas Mavericks, who just finally got their first win in the NBA Finals. I really thought it was going to be a 4-game sweep. I really did.
I did too. I got a buddy of mine here in the DFW that is a big old Boston fan, and I told him from the get-go, look, Boston should win this series. There is all the pundits that were trying to put Luka or Kyrie in that court on a pedestal. I get it. They are fantastic. They have been fantastic this entire playoff series. But the fact is the Mavericks are a piece away, and they're ahead of the curve, just like, you see the greats that were – look, my thing is Luka is a transcendent talent, okay? He is – there is no doubt in my mind that Luka is a transcendent talent, and he is a LeBron or Jordan, 15, 20-year player or whatever that's going to be that guy. But at the end of the day, he's got to go through his growing pains, and he's going to be ahead of schedule in some ways. Just like he made it to the Western Conference Finals, 3 years ago, right? Or 2 years ago. I don't remember. It was 2 years ago. And
yep,
he made it there with Brunson. At the same time, they weren't ready for that moment completely to move on. And just like they are now, Boston has been for 8 years, has been in deep into the playoffs, made it to a finals, made it to Eastern Conference Finals, 6 of them, I believe, in the past 8 years, right? Come on. They're supposed to win this game. They were built to win the series, sorry. But tonight, look, the Mavs came out. They punched him in the mouth.
Dominant win by the Dallas Mavericks. I've got to tip my hat to them. I'll tell you what, those first 3 games, it just looked like Boston had their number. I mean, they were obviously just like we had talked about a few weeks ago. They were the easy pick coming out of the East, far and away, and they looked every bit as dominant in those first 3 games until tonight. But I couldn't have said it any better. The Mavs absolutely punched the Celtics in the face tonight.
They came
dominant
in
win.
Play, and their switches were quicker. You could, I'm not a basketball expert by any means, but what I do know is whenever there is a legitimate scene hustle of switches, of getting on to a man, it's noticeable. And the main point that I come away with is that Luka Doncic tonight, I hope, even though he's probably going to lose this series, right? It's 0-100 and stupid, right? Whatever the number is, that if you're down 0-3, you would lose a series. Right. There's been 2 that have gone to 7 games, but it's still over for a reason. Beating a team 4 times in a row that is out of the Eastern Conference or Western Conference for that matter just doesn't happen. I'm sorry. It just isn't going to happen most of the time.
100% right
now. But the fact is that you came in, you punched him in the mouth, you got one. It's for more. Look, great. You got the taste of a win in the finals for yourself, and you gave yourself a chance. It's a slim chance. It's a 0 chance right now, but you gave yourself a chance. And Luka did it by not engaging the refs, by listening to all the people who see the obvious reasons why he has issues. Because he engages the refs, he gets distracted by things that aren't the actual game. Control what you can control. And because you are the best talent on the court. Stop. You're the best player on the court. Be the best player. Just be that guy. And hopefully this teaches him a lesson for next year. Hopefully this changes his attitude and the way that he treats the refs, because unfortunately that's going to be the thing that prevents him from winning championships. It's obvious.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean they look great. I really have not a whole lot to say here other than the Mavs did their thing tonight and a dominant win. It was not a close game whatsoever. The Mavs were pretty much had their foot on the Celtics' throat tonight, and it's going to make for a very, very, very interesting rest of the series. Now,
kind of. I think you need to tap the brakes there. I think the Boston comes back. My prediction is Boston in 5 at this point. Like that was if.
Well, and it doesn't help that they play in Boston on Monday.
I don't think that the Mavs. I don't think their role players are going to play like they did tonight. And look, the Mavs right now winning is mostly based on, can your role players give you, X number of points so that Luka and Kyrie don't have to do everything. That's
nothing else. The important thing is they gave the Mavs a shot.
Yeah, they gave them a shot tonight. They gave him a shot in the dark, but yes.
Sure. I mean, call it what you will, but they're not out of it just yet. The fat lady has rested her vocal cords, at least for now.
It's 4 games. You got to win 4. Yep. It's not 3.
Win 4.
It's 4.
That's right.
So,
it does not help though. Like I say, them playing in Boston on Monday. That's going to be tough. Obviously, Boston has a good crowd. Boston sports fans always put up a good crowd. Unfortunately, one of my least favorite fan bases.
Okay, let's think hypothetically here. Okay, well, the what ifs. I'm going to play that game because the what if is this.
Pause. We have with us the man, the myth, the legend. I'll have to change this around a little bit. But welcome to the show, Leather Danny Gilmore.
Oh, how's that? There we go. Howdy.
Yes.
How are we doing, Paul?
My friend, how are you?
Good. Who's this guy on my top left here?
That's my good buddy Charles. Right here.
It's mirrored.
Good buddy Charles from Lamar's league.
Oh, really?
Right. I am a degenerate just like you, Leather Danny, and I will enjoy giving you shit as well as receiving said shit. So let's boogity, brother.
Trying to rub your nipple. Can you feel that?
Well, always, because first of all, my nipples are small, so good luck finding them. I've been told it's difficult, but
I'm like a pig looking for a truffle when it comes to nipples.
Well, you and I have very similar driving forces, if you will.
Oh, we got the same kinks?
Yeah, same kinks.
I'd be careful what you wish for there, Charles.
Look, man.
Notice his name is Leather Danny.
Just remember this. Which one's the first knuckle? Just to the first knuckle. Is it here or is it here? Like, which one do you consider the first knuckle? All right.
Jesus. All right. Well, we're talking about the NBA Finals. Dallas Mavericks finally got their first win of the series against the Boston Celtics.
So about the last knuckle.
But so I heard how'd your meeting go, Danny?
Oh, it went good. I don't know, but I'm a little worried that she's a bit too mature for me. But I was making her laugh quite a bit, so I think it went good. I think she was like at the very end, she's like, hey, like I can't remember. We're talking about like texting when I get back, and she's like, yeah, you better text me when you get back. Like, okay, that's a pretty good sign.
Danny, let me let you in on something right now.
What's that?
being a man that is married to a lovely woman who is 44 and I am 34. Let me tell you right now, maturity and the availability like that
It
is
rare.
something you
Rare
need to take advantage of in a good way, not a take advantage of to take advantage of it, but like seriously, like they don't fuck around. All right, it's gonna be the way it is, just from a guy from experience.
Well, let me tell you about my last date from last week, because I thought it went really well.
Story time.
But it got a little weird. Like once I got into my truck.
Until the end of this to listen. By the way, go ahead.
Oh, okay, yeah,
I got
you.
my sweet tea and honey jack here.
I got my bottle of water that was left in here from a week ago.
There's no drinking and driving. Good man.
That's true. So, went good. We got to my truck and she wants to make out, but she has this weird thing that creeped the hell out of me where first off, this is all like above the clothes. This is all just dry humping.
Right. Middle school.
And this is a sports show, I promise.
Yeah. I know this is a sporting event. I'm sitting there like hands up and she's stop. What are you doing? Stop it. I'm like, I don't like this game. And then she choked me.
Jesus.
Oh, and then I was like, yeah, it was just some weird, like, don't touch my ass, like under the clothes. Like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't say take your hands off my ass. And lots of yelling like that. And then the next day I text her and everything. And she's like, hey, listen, hey, I'm only into fit guys. So that's going to be it.
Okay. Well, so that's your last date.
Yeah.
Fuck that date. How did this date go? Give me this date. Give me this date.
Oh yeah, that was like I say, yeah, that was the this one. We just went out for margaritas and some tacos. And yeah, I think it went pretty well. Like there's like you said, there is an age difference there. Like she got me by 10 years. Which
Shannon says this show took a turn real quick. Tell me about it.
Yeah.
Hey, life and sports. Go ahead, continue.
Yeah. You know, it is a first date, so it's a little meet and greet. So, but I know I've been summertime like is when I'm kid free, so I've been dating a lot. Like I went out with a girl last night. Actually, that wasn't my last date. So that was a week ago or last weekend. But I went out with someone else the other night, and that was actually really cool because we went on like this rooftop bar restaurant, and you could look down and watch the Dragons baseball game.
Oh, okay, cool.
So you can watch the game from up there. That was pretty badass. So
all right, cool. Well, I'm going to end with this because I said I had like 15 minutes or so before I had to boogity on out of here, Leather Danny.
Oh, you got a boogie too?
Yes, I have a very hot wife over there, and anyway, so look, point is this. Danny, it sounds to me like homegirl, the older one, obviously sees a spark in you. And I think that you need to explore that spark. And I think that you need to realize that there is a benefit to somebody who knows what the fuck they want. Anyway, do your thing, bro. Great meeting you.
Hey,
Rick, the man, the myth, the legend. I love you immensely.
Before you leave, I'm sure Danny and I are probably going to talk a little bit of hockey before you leave. And so as we kind of segue into that, I just wanted to drop this.
How much postage does it take to send a letter to Canada?
Who's it going to?
Canada. It says, Dear Canada, you.
Look, Florida has no business being so goddamn good at hockey. Not just Florida, but like Lightning, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
fucking Canada hasn't had a championship. The game that is supposed to be their game, right? They're like the NBA of fucking, hockey in terms of like the Olympics and shit, right? Canada always wins and shit, right? It was the Ruskies and then Canada. Like, it's like, what the fuck, man? Like, how is Florida so good?
The fact that a team from South Florida is through. Well, the game 3 was a bit more competitive, but really
It's 3-0, man. I don't give a shit how
3-0.
competitive it is.
You
The
guys
first
are-
two games,
Wait. You guys are all acting like these guys are from Florida.
I know
Like,
they're
they all
not,
do.
but I get it.
understood, but still,
We get
even
it.
still, just the fact
Still,
that a
it's
team
Florida.
based in Miami, Florida, at least in the first two games, like the Florida Panthers were manhandling the Edmonton Oilers, absolutely manhandling them. And in game 3 in the Stanley Cup Finals, a team from Florida is just absolutely manhandling a team from Canada on hockey's biggest stage.
Well, look, here's the other part. The best player in the league, the fucking hockey Jesus, is on the Oilers.
Wayne Gretzky.
Look, well, yeah, Wayne Gretzky, but this Wayne Gretzky is on the Oilers.
McDavid.
McDavid is hockey Jesus. And look, fact is,
he's getting his ass kicked right now.
he's getting his ass beat. Like the Florida, like they're doing what the Stars couldn't do, and they're doing what everybody couldn't do. Couldn't finally figure out a way to slow him down enough. Fact is, Florida just they have it. Like, and this is hockey, man. It's not like fucking the NFL or, you know, well, it is okay. It's not like NBA or baseball in that there are just teams that are just better.
Because the players don't flop down and puss out whenever someone sneezes.
It is. They can literally be the 8th seed and be the guys, because hockey is so much of an emotional sport physically. And again, that's where hockey and football are similar, but the difference is hockey is a 7-game series of similar. Right. So like hockey is, to me, like always been the football of all the, you know, those style of sports, which are field based. They're still similar to soccer, you know, basketball. They all have that similar free flowing gameplay. Right. Like hockey's the most similar because of the physicality.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. All right,
hockey's
boys.
rough, man.
Love you both. Enjoy the rest of your show.
Absolutely.
Rick,
thanks for stopping by.
Brother Danny, I would love to stop by another time whenever y'all pick this back up again, because I know you're taking a break. So,
all right, buddy. Take it easy.
Where is he? Oh, what's that?
Yeah. All right. That was Chuck, ladies and gentlemen, giving us his thoughts on the NBA Finals. Always glad to have him in here. But we do have, let's see, Shannon here leaves a comment. It's not natural for a place that's only ice comes from a freezer to be so good at hockey. South Florida should only be known for retirees and shuffleboards. Could agree more, but no, I mean,
the Coyotes officially going to Utah. I'm not a big. It is happening. That makes way more sense than Phoenix. I don't know how Phoenix got a hockey team before Salt Lake City.
Yeah, and I want to say, just before, like, I think they had all but worked out a deal to build a new rink for them in Arizona. I don't know if it was in Phoenix. I think they were playing in Tempe. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, they had all but finalized a deal, if I'm not mistaken, to build a new rink for the Coyotes there somewhere in Arizona. And I think they're actually going to be rebranding. It hasn't been officially released yet, but they're going to be rebranding upon their move to Utah.
I used to get excited when I hear those kind of names, but I feel like so many of the new name of teams are so shitty because every cool team is already licensed out. So you have like the Guardians, the Nationals. You know, there's very few team names left that they can, you know, go on. So it's going to be something like the Wave.
My brother had come up with a couple of funny names. I'd have to like go back in my text message stream, and bro, if you're watching, maybe you could drop it there in the comment section. But one name that I remember that sticks out in my mind that he had suggested for the Utah NHL team was the Stormin' Mormons. That was just mint. Just mint. But no, I mean, No, it's 3-0 lead for the Florida Panthers right now. The game 3 was certainly more competitive, but Florida, for their part, has just looked dominant. I mean, I remember they were really, really good last year too, which is just crazy to me because you figure for the longest time, the Florida Panthers were just kind of, some whatever franchise that nobody really gave the time of day to.
Right.
And now all of a sudden, here we are, and they're one of the more dominant teams in the league right now. So
yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah.
They
hopefully
could
one of those things well, I was gonna say, hopefully it's one of those things like you kind of see with Jacksonville in the NFL where they start having a few good runs, and then you really start building that fan support there that can keep the team there. I don't know how endangered Florida was on losing a team. I just imagine that their following wasn't great. It's such a weird location. But some I'll be straight out. I don't know. I don't know if they're just have an insane fan base, regardless of the record. I assume it hasn't been great.
Well,
but
I don't know.
Either way, this is going to be great for them.
Sure. No, what I will say is, I remember watching a few of their games last year, but the game I tuned into the other night, I believe it was at the end of game 2. I tuned in and watched for a little bit, and that crowd looked insane. The atmosphere in that place, you could almost barely even hear the announcers. The crowd there for the Florida Panthers was phenomenal. It really was. They have a great fan support right now. Couldn't tell you again. I really didn't pay too much attention to them up until these last few years where they have started to assert themselves and become dominant. But I will say their fans have been phenomenal. The place is incredibly loud.
So they have Tampa Bay. Is that the only two? They only have 2 NHL teams in Florida.
You have the
Tampa
Bay Lightning. You have the Florida Panthers. I think that's it for Florida NHL teams.
Yeah, that's plenty for Florida.
No, but I mean, and hell, the Lightning just a couple of years ago, and they were still like
they won a few years ago, didn't they?
Yeah, and they're still one of the better teams right now. In fact, I know the Tampa Bay Lightning beat the Toronto Maple Leafs a few years ago. So, no, it's been a lot of fun to watch. It really has. They could very easily wrap up the series with a sweep in Edmonton in this next game, which I think goes down tomorrow. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Let me double check. Yeah, no, tomorrow at 8:00 Eastern. Game 4 goes down. I'll definitely be watching that if I can. Depending on what the wife and I are doing. But they could easily just wrap the series up there and come back home with the Stanley Cup there in Florida, which is crazy to think about. Again, this is a franchise that for at least the better part of my memory has not been an overly hyped up franchise.
So Charles mentioned something about the 7th or 8th seed. Is that where Florida was going into the playoffs?
I don't believe so. They were a damn good team last year. In fact, here I'll pull it up right now. Okay. Florida was they were the 1 seed.
Oh, okay.
They were the 1 seed. And Edmonton, for their part, was, let's see, where were they at? Where was they were the 2 seed coming out of the coming out of the West there.
Pretty high in there. Okay.
Yeah. So you have the number 1 seed from the East and the number 2 seed from the West. And so far, the number 1 seed from the East is beating the shit out of the Western Conference team.
So I'm trying to figure. So my drive home is like a good 40, 45 minutes. I'm wondering if I should do some more of the show now and then jump off later, or if I should run home and then catch the end of the show.
100% up to you, my friend. I really don't have too terribly much more to talk about as far as hockey goes. Certainly not basketball. Basketball is not really my forte. So I was going to more so just kind of recap the.
Want to talk some XFL before we
Yeah,
jump
sure. I was going to recap the two conference championships, and then kind of do a little bit of a preview on the championship game. So with that, I'll go ahead and roll it for what is probably the last time before I redo this video for next year.
Yeah.
It's time for the BAM Sports Show Extreme UFL Breakdown.
The Memphis Showboats, they've been waiting a long time and finally back on the field in Tennessee. How big's the crowd? I'll give you the specifics. 38,310 inside the dome today. And they are witnessing the play of the fourth quarter, and they were the difference. And so the Birmingham Stallions are the champions of the USFL.
$17,280 in one section to create the beer snake.
Now the celebration can begin. 8.5-point underdogs. Outright winners. The Arlington Renegades are XFL champions.
Yeah.
What a video. Hey, before we go into like recapping what happened this week, I want to jump into something quickly with going more towards the other teams, because this has happened every year with the XFL so far. I wonder what's going to happen again this year. What teams do you think are going to relocate, and where are they going to go? If any at all.
Sure. So I think that the prime candidate for relocation for me, if I were to put money on it right now today, would probably be Memphis. Memphis is a very small and unfortunately very poverty-ridden market. It's a very dangerous area. Easily the least amount of fan support in the league. As far as location is concerned, my top bet would be Oklahoma City. They had, of the UFL TV markets, OKC raked in at number 3. And the UFL, just to kind of give some context here, TV ratings for the UFL this year have absolutely skyrocketed. I think I have to go back and read it again, but for the conference championships, despite competing with the NBA finals and the Stanley Cup playoffs, I think there was even a couple of racing events, but the conference championships, I want to say, were up like somewhere in the neighborhood of like 57% over what they were for both the XFL and the USFL last year.
And they're both great games too. I mean, I didn't have anything on any of the teams that were in there, but I mean, just from someone who didn't have anything invested, they were both very entertaining games.
For sure. But the Memphis Showboats, if I remember correctly, if they were not the dead last ranking team, they were certainly down there, maybe at number 2 at worst. But I think they had the least amount of fan support from both a TV and attendance standpoint, which is kind of surprising. I would have figured it would have been Houston, being basically a USFL team, but just under a different uniform, and also they're playing at a different stadium. I would have figured that, they would have had less support, but Memphis would be, anyway, I'm rambling here. My answer would be Memphis to OKC.
Yeah, I would love like someone to go to a market like OKC instead of trying to make like LA or Las Vegas work. I know they're trying to just get that sweet TV money out there, but I just hate seeing teams go there, honestly. But I love the idea of Oklahoma City. I would say, you're saying you don't think Houston, you're saying Houston is bottom ranked like Memphis, or you said you're surprised that Houston had more fan support? Because they look, if I remember right, I thought Houston was pretty bad.
Yeah, no, they definitely were. I'm just saying, just looking at, if I remember reading like the average between average attendance and average TV viewership, I want to say Memphis was actually below them. Also, they've already confirmed that the Houston Roughnecks are going back to the stadium that they were playing at, where the the Houston College team, the Cougars, at TC EDU Stadium or wherever they were playing at before.
Do you think that would make much of a difference for that team, just because it's going to be in the same city? I couldn't imagine people saying, "Oh, it's back in that stadium. We'll actually go to a game this time."
I would have to defer to people that live in the area. I'm not sure where Rice Stadium is, in comparison to TC EDU Stadium or whatever the other stadium that the Roughnecks of last year were playing at. But if nothing else, it's brand familiarity. I know that the Roughnecks certainly had they were nowhere near some of the other teams, but the Roughnecks had decent support last year. But the fact that they've
already did. It seemed like all the teams, except for the UFL or USFL, looked like they had just better support last year, which surprised me that the TV ratings were so well. So I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, they have a great partnership with Fox now. And I think that from that standpoint, they're actually benefiting quite well. I mean, the numbers show it. Like I said, their ratings have skyrocketed compared to last year, and I think the fact that you're intermingling fan bases,
true,
have a little bit more. Oh well, I want to see the XFL team do better, or it may not even be my team, or the same in reverse as well. For the USFL folks.
Do you think? I know there's a playoff team, but I was kind of wondering about Michigan. I wasn't. Their fan base didn't look like it was too supportive.
I saw that they were possibly contemplating, like, from what I understand, I think they're planning on staying. I think there's been some mumbling about them not playing at Ford Field anymore.
Okay. I think smaller stadiums are definitely better to watch in the UFL.
Agreed.
Like just seeing those giant ass 70,000 seat stadiums with 4,000 people is just looks so bad. If you just get a good soccer stadium.
Look at your team. Look at the DC Defenders. They have a smaller stadium, but the fact that it's packed, you have 15,000 people there, but it's packed to the gills.
I think that just looks so much better. And then even like or Birmingham, excuse me, has great fan showing, but they got all the people in one half of the stadium, and even that half of the stadium, there's not a lot of people on. It doesn't look like a whole lot of people, but there is.
Right.
I'd much rather see them go a smaller thing. How about I guess to start with Birmingham and Michigan. What do you think about that one?
Birmingham, Michigan. That was an interesting. That third quarter was just nuts.
Just the turnover after turnover.
Oh my God. And the comeback that the Stallions made, my gosh, and it's ironic, the guy that ended up winning the MVP of the league this year, Adrian Martinez, as much of a fan of the Stallions that I am not, I got to give that guy credit. He was a freaking beast this year, but he ends up getting benched in favor of Matt Corral, who was originally their starter at the beginning of the year. And, they were down, I believe it was like 18-0. Or no, excuse me.
18-0. 18-3.
Yeah, 18-3. Like I want to say maybe midway through or towards the late end of the second quarter.
Yeah.
And then Birmingham went on to score, I believe it was 28 unanswered points.
Yeah.
So
I'm hoping
just nuts.
Like watching a game like this, like if you're a casual fan, you're at a bar and this game is on, that will make you want to look into getting some tickets and going to the game, and just supporting the league. So I don't know. It sounds like everything you're saying. We're backtracking a little bit, but it makes me happy hearing what you're saying about like the TV ratings and all that, because just for me, like the only thing I was going off of just what was at the stands, and to me it was like, oh my God, I don't know if this thing is in danger or what, but that does definitely sound like better news.
Yeah, no, I kind of thought so too until I read about the TV ratings, and that's honestly where they make their money, is that those corporate sponsorships,
getting those ads,
Right, and it's so I'm not too terribly worried about it. And they have a bunch of money invested into this thing. You've got to figure like they're going to account for the fact that, fan showing up to the games right out the gate may not, necessarily hold water just yet until they build their brand,
Yeah, and I think the branding is rough. I'm not basing this on anything. I just, I think there might be an issue with branding where someone who is, like I said, a casual fan, when it first came back, it's, hey, I remember the XFL from the early 2000s. That's pretty cool. And everyone was kind of, seemed like it was on all over the place. Like I'd go to the gym, there was a game on, all that stuff, and it seemed like all the attendance was really high. And then we had COVID, and so it's like, oh, it's canceled. And then it took a whole year off, and then came back. And I could see a lot of people not getting the memo that it's back, and especially if they lose their team, if all of a sudden, whatever, the LA Wildcats aren't there anymore, it's like, oh well, or LA Cougars. You might not realize that the league is actually back. And then technically then the XFL left right after that and became the UFL. And so when you're looking for, hey, the XFL, where is it this year? And then you just don't find it online, or you don't see it, on your TV guide. As a casual fan, is what I'm saying. Then it'd be pretty easy to just, when you go through that many changes from cancellations and rebrandings and stuff, I think it might be hard for people to go. So if they stay with what they have now for another 2 or 3 years, I could see people starting to take root a little bit in the fandom.
100%. I think you kind of hit the nail right on the head there. I think part of it probably is a byproduct of people, because we have had, unfortunately,
I'll make sure my battery didn't die here.
Oh, you're good. We do have, unfortunately, some history of spring football just not working out. I know a lot of it is, unfortunately, just it has nothing even necessarily to do with the fact that the league wasn't succeeding at the time. I mean, hell, you look at the 2020 XFL. Fan attendance was phenomenal, especially obviously St. Louis, but Seattle as well. Some other teams, DC had great support.
Yeah.
But I think because of these just freak things happening, there probably is a little bit of trepidation for people to really get heavily invested in it. But I think this merger is a good thing, because now you're not having to pull two different ways, between, well, which league do I support? Now you consolidate it all into one. You bring two sources of revenue, if you will, and resources, kind of meld them all into one.
Yeah.
I think you give it 2 or 3 years of stability and, more great partnerships. And they've had, honestly, I don't love some of the marketing that, or rather lack thereof, that they've had in local markets, but they've had publicity in other areas. Like this for the championship game, for example, Tom Brady's going to be presenting the championship trophy.
That's cool.
Tom Brady was also at a Michigan Panthers game earlier in the season. And they've had these big name, former players, kind of chiming in and, getting involved with it. So I think it's just going to take some time and stability with the league, which I think that they will. I think they found the formula. And I think, another reason why I think OKC is probably a prime relocation candidate for next year. I'm starting to see the benefits of, at least for, a temporary basis for a little while longer, but the hub model that they're using right now, to kind of save some money and not, just dish it out so that they go bankrupt, but putting a team in OKC, as they, the old adage of crawl, walk, run.
Yeah.
While they're still in those early stages, they still, kind of consolidate to that part of the country that the league is in right now. But you capture a TV market and a fan base that is clearly very, very, very interested in the league, and they don't even have a team right now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I think I would love it if something. I mean, I'm obviously a little more biased with like Louisville. I think that one's my choice. But just as well with OKC, I would love to find a small market area that just absolutely cherish the shit out of their UFL team. You know, like a Green Bay, like the way Green Bay is to the Packers. You know, that just regardless of the size of the town or whatever, they're just filling up that stadium and they're just going bananas for their pro team. That's what I love. I would hate something like Vegas or LA. They just don't know about the team. They don't care about the team.
And I honestly, I think that the West Coast is out of right now. I think that they really have to continue to build their brand. I think when that time does come, I don't think that it's next year. I could maybe, and this to me would still be a stretch, but I think maybe even 2026 is a stretch before we start looking at the West Coast. But that would be, just
that's when you could start the conversation if everything keeps getting better.
Right. And I think that my prime location for the West Coast would be San Diego.
Yes.
For reasons I'm not going to sit here and rant on about, but they have that new stadium.
Should have been San Diego before it's LA, when they came with the Wildcats.
If you're going to go with the Cali team, I think you have to go San Diego. I mean, hell, you saw where I lived out there. You're not a 5-minute drive from a massive military housing complex. So you'd get, a bunch of sailors and Marines that just want to drink and enjoy football. They could give a damn less who's playing, paired with a similar St. Louis effect, all the pissed off former Chargers fans that just want football. So I think it'd be great.
I think it's a St. Louis formula. I think a lot of guys should be looking at, hey, here's a market that just lost their football team and they're pissed, they want their team back. I think that's what made St. Louis go crazy in football. I mean, when you think about, maybe I'm completely wrong here. I know you're going to be biased, but in terms of NFL when it was in St. Louis, I don't think it was probably insanely more crazy than the rest of the NFL in the same way that it is in the UFL. I mean, right? I mean, obviously how it is in the UFL is head and shoulders compared to what St. Louis football and the NFL was with the rest of the league.
I mean, maybe not from just sure. And, I don't think that you're completely wrong there. I think there is some credence to be lent to, maybe at least towards the end, maybe just not that absolute batshit crazy energy that the Battlehawks bring. But what I will say, and this is part of why the NFL had to fork over $790 million to St. Louis, because they proved look, this was not, one, you guys didn't follow your own relocation guidelines, and the notion that it was a fan support problem. The attendance wasn't an issue, and support wasn't an issue in St. Louis. But
and that's I guess my point is that what's not to say that something like either Oakland or San Diego can't be just like St. Louis, a team that was what made St. Louis a crazy, in my opinion. I'm sure it would have been a decent fan base even if they still had the but
Rams,
we have to. I assume we both agree that having the Rams taken away from made them batshit crazy. UFL other fans, and I'd say there'd be no reason to think that something like San Diego might be a very similar situation.
Yeah, and it's the stadium's perfect size too. It looks a lot bigger than it is, at least from the drone footage, but it only seats about 35,000 fans.
Does it really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I didn't realize that.
Perfect size, but it looks so much bigger. So it has
because
of the way that the stadium is designed. It would be great optics, for the UFL if they do eventually end up going there, and I'm sure it'll be great optics for the college team too. Whenever they, I think they're already playing there. Maybe I'm wrong. But anyway, no. Oh, sorry, I forgot to post this earlier. The other name that Shannon had come up with for the Utah NHL team is the Utah Latter-day Skates.
That's a good one.
But no, so USFL Conference Championship, kind of looking over the stats here. Adrian Martinez, before he got benched, went 10 of 19 for 164 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. I believe one of those was a pick six. He also had 4 rushing attempts for 8 yards, which is crazy. His longest run, and 6 of those yards came on 1 run, which is crazy. I mean, because you figure like the guy has basically been, kind of a spring football Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, kind of mashup there. But he eventually gets benched in favor of Matt Corral, who went 9 of 11 for 120, 2 touchdowns, and then there was interceptions by everybody this game.
Yeah, God, it was just play after play. It was nuts.
Leading rusher of the game was the Stallions running back, CJ Marble. Yep, CJ Marble, 8 yards for 77. For the Panthers, for their part, Danny Etling went 18 of 29 for 182 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. The wheels came off the track in the second half for the Panthers.
I'm thinking of Marbles because he's my running back in our fantasy league, and we never talked about this. Rick, congratulations for winning the league. I don't know how many of us were still playing by the end of it. I stopped playing for the last couple of games, and I took second place. So I'm pretty proud of that. Yeah. So hopefully we'll have a better website next year, because that thing was just ass.
It really was. It was bad. It was so bad. So bad. And then, of course, the heartbreaker, my St. Louis Battlehawks against the San Antonio Brahmas. San Antonio comes out 25-15. But this game was not without its drama. I really feel like at the end of the day, for us, AJ McCarron's ankle that he injured in, I believe it was week 7 against the Birmingham Stallions was just too much to overcome. Wasn't mobile, and our offensive coordinator is an idiot.
Well, I'd probably take that guy over DC's offensive coordinator. I think ours was just terrible. But
I don't know. I really feel like for y'all, for Jordan Teamu, he was devoid of a receiving core. Out of like one guy.
Yeah, I forget his name, but yeah, we had one guy. But then our offensive line was bad. But still, it was just. I don't know. I think the offensive play calling wasn't that great. But I was saying, for the Battlehawks, and I ripped on them enough, that I got my fun in. But it was about I think it was the third quarter where, it was by halftime, everyone was saying the game's over, but they got within a score in the third quarter, so they turned it into a game.
It was nuts. Sure. Yeah, we had 2 touchdowns in a matter of 13 seconds.
Yeah.
One because the Chase Garbers, the Brahmas quarterback, ends up he's rolling out of the pocket and drops the ball.
Yeah.
Tries to pick it up. One of our dudes just lays him out, and another defender runs it into the end zone. And then we somehow end up getting the ball back. Not that, I think it was like an interception or something. End up getting the ball back, and AJ drives down the field. Our one competent offensive drive in the game.
Huge play.
Yeah. Jacob Sailor's, doing his thing, running down the field. AJ McCarron's dishing out some passes and finally throws a touchdown to Hakeem Butler.
And I just feel
not Hakeem Butler, our tight end. That was our tight end, Jake Sutherland.
Yeah, and I know you and Blake were giving a lot of grief to the offensive coordinator. I think by the end of the game, that was just ridiculous how they weren't going for a field goal.
100%.
For everyone who didn't watch the game, there was about, what do you say, like a minute left by the time they're in field goal range. Does that sound about right? It was pretty. It might have been a little less than a minute, but rather than going for a field goal and then being down a score, they would have to do an onside kick after that. They bled the clock over and over again. They kept trying to go for the touchdown, and they kept losing time after like over and over and over again. And eventually we're never able to get that kickoff to even make an attempt to make the 4-and-12 conversion. They're all the UFL's version of the onside kick. So it's not just really, really, really bad game management on the coaches, but in terms of play calling before that, I feel like a lot of that.
Bad. I mean, they tried to do this trick play where they threw AJ McCarron, who's hobbling on one ankle, a pass.
Yeah. But I will say, I think a lot of that, was San Antonio, because I think their defense in the last couple last half of the season just absolutely kicked it up a notch. And so I want to give them their credit for that too, But I think, but there's a lot to be said about that last minute of the game was just that was tough to watch.
Yeah, it was. And to your point, they've had the top defense in the league for the last several weeks now.
Yeah.
Their pass rush was brutal. We did have a few starters out on our offensive line, but our offensive line has been kind of spotty. Although I will say, I felt like before AJ got hurt, he was wheeling and dealing. We were the top scoring offense in the league. But just they couldn't. But he was able to extend a lot of plays too. And obviously, he was a statue back there. He really couldn't move out a lot. And there was one player for the Brahmas, I think his name is Tabor, just a dirty dude, man. Like, I remember in week 10, he admitted, and there's you could look up his name, you can Google him, and you'll find, I'm sure, at least 10 to 12 different articles about how he admitted publicly, like, no, I am targeting his ankle. I'm going to try to do it legally, but I am targeting his ankle. If he doesn't play, we win, so of course I'm going to target his ankle. And I saw there was one play during the game where you could tell he was AJ, he ended up scrambling and he gives himself up, he's going for the slide, but well after he gave himself up and is beginning to slide, this dude tries to lead with his helmet and just barely missed AJ's ankle. And he's like up and smiling and laughing, and ends up trying to start a fight with a bunch of the Battlehawks players after the game. One of our defenders, Willie Harvey, was trying to get after him, which that would have been a nightmare for Tabor. He's a smaller guy. He's a corner. Willie Harvey's one of our linebackers. But,
I heard you guys on the chat talking about that fight. I was trying to find a video of it. I couldn't find it. I didn't look super hard. I was just on the UFL Reddit
sure.
trying to see if I could find something. But
yeah, no. So I honestly wouldn't be shocked if he was starting a lot of stuff after the game. So I honestly wouldn't be shocked if I know Wade Phillips is pretty old school guy. It wouldn't shock me if he ended up finding his own plane ticket home. Wink, wink.
Yeah. Wink, indeed.
Yep. Anyway, so moving on to the league championship between those very same San Antonio Brahmas and the Birmingham Stallions. The Brahmas the only, huh?
Oh, continue your thing.
No, the Brahmas the only team to have given Birmingham a loss this year. So it should be a hell of a game. Now, if we go back and look, let me see if I can find the score. I don't remember what week they played. I want to say they played week maybe 8 or 9. Let me see if I can find it. Yep. It was week 9. The San Antonio Brahmas, of course, at their house, they're in San Antonio, ends up holding the Stallions to only 9 points. The Brahmas end up winning that game 18-9.
Our defense.
Let me look at No, Adrian Martinez, that particular game, went 18 for 32 for 211, 1 touchdown and interception. He also rushed for 56 yards on 5 attempts. The Brahmas, Chase Garbers, obviously, he was kind of making his way back from injury, but for his part, went 16 out of 23 for 139, no touchdowns. Anthony McFarland, who ended up being our undoing, ends up running for over 100 yards on us. The Stallions as a whole end up getting over 200 yards rushing between their 3 monster running backs on us. But really at the end of the day, as much as I hate to say it, well, I really don't. I don't hate to say it necessarily, but I know that Stallions fans are looking for sort of a pseudo three-peat, between the two back-to-back, the back-to-back championships.
They're
they had with
shouting three-peat. Yep.
But I hate to say it, I don't see it, man. I mean, San Antonio, I think their problem for a little bit was they were banged up. I mean, Chase Garbers was out for quite a bit of the year. Both of their running backs, and I think that's actually probably what kind of helped us in Week 10 against the Brahmas, was they were without their two lead backs. Although Morgan Ellison, I've always been a fan of his. When he played for Seattle last year, big fan of his. Or I don't know if it was last year or the year before. I don't know, but Morgan Ellison's kind of their bruiser, and he's a phenomenal back. And to have that as your number 3 back, just a nightmare. Their pass rush is absolutely relentless. They have a really solid secondary. Chase Garbers is athletic. He can extend plays. He can roll out of the pocket. He can rush himself. Not maybe quite as mobile as Adrian Martinez from the Stallions, but he's athletic enough for sure. I think that this is just going to be a matter of the Stallions really doing a lot of what they did to us. I think that they're going to blitz like hell, which is going to be interesting. Well, I don't know if they'll blitz so much, with Adrian Martinez being as mobile as he is. But I think that they're going to blitz a fair bit, if nothing else. And I think that they're just going to try to run the ball down Birmingham's throat.
Do you know what the odds are for this game?
Let me look here. The odds for this game, according to Fox Sports, has the let's see here. They have, let's see here. It's loading. Let's see here. They have, looks like I'm having trouble reading this. Looks like they have the Stallions as favorites in this game.
Are they the minus?
Yeah, they're the minus.
Okay, what's the minus?
Minus 346.
Okay.
So, yeah, they have the Stallions favored to win this game, which is interesting because they lost to San Antonio is the only team they lost to this year. I don't know. How do you see this game shaking out?
I'm rooting for San Antonio. I'm just gonna be curious what the Stallions' game plan is. Because if they keep that, if they don't switch quarterbacks this time, they just, keep forget his name, but the guy who came in at the second half. It could be a different game. Or maybe it's, part of the game, the process, try and teach the guys on one way. Sorry. I'm in my beater truck and I'm like 45 minutes from home, so I'm kind of worried that my truck is making some weird noises. So yeah, I have $10 left on my FanDuel and I'm going to put it on San Antonio. So
okay.
So
okay. I don't know that I'm necessarily rooting for one or the other, but if I had to make a prediction, I think that San Antonio takes it, which will be great for the city of San Antonio. I know as much vitriol as I have against some of their players, what I will say is I love the Brahmas fans. I got to meet. Yeah. There was a whole crew of them that came up to the game, the Week 10 game that that Blake and I went to together. Which actually wanted to share that before we go. But
they traveled up there.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
The one guy, like the mariachi guy with the sombrero.
Yeah.
I met him. Yeah, cool guy. Really, really cool guy. For sure. Oops. Let me see here.
So I'm gonna duck out of here. I'm gonna hit the road. I'm kind of worried my truck's making some noises. So I'm like,
no worries, man. No worries. Do your thing. It's good talking to you, brother.
All right, buddy. Peace.
Later. And that was Danny Gilmore, a.k.a. Leather Danny, joining us for the BAM Sports Show tonight. One thing I did want to share before I head out, because I thought that was just kind of cool. So as some of you may know, Blake and I, the main host of the show, know each other through a St. Louis Battlehawks fan page on Facebook. He and I met before the 2020 season, before the COVID season. I was making a post on there, that, hey, I'm active duty, I'm thinking about making a trip home to St. Louis to be there for the game. And he ended up just being really cool and saying, hey, man, if you're able to make it home, I got your tickets covered for you. And so my brother and I got to go together. And so that's just always been a really, really cool thing for Blake and I. And we kind of got to bring things full circle here, which I'll show you here on the screen. Oops, let me see here. There you can kind of see it. It's that is Blake and I at the regular season finale at the Battlehawks game, and you can see we're rocking there on the screen is our is the rally towel from the 2020 home opener, which I just thought was super cool. Blake's a great friend of mine. I'm super glad to have had him, meet him and be there with me at that regular season finale. But no, we're just kind of looking back at this championship game between the Birmingham Stallions and the San Antonio Brahmas. So the Brahmas, again, are favored to lose this game. They are slight underdogs in this game, but I don't know. And maybe you guys can tell me in the comment section. I just don't see it. I really think that the Brahmas defense is going to be just too much for the Birmingham Stallions to handle. That's just me, though. But we'll see what happens. It should be a great game. I think one thing that's pretty cool for us St. Louis folks is that Charles Glenn is going to be singing the national anthem at the game. And for those of you that don't know who Charles Glenn is, he was for 19 years the St. Louis Blues national anthem singer. He kind of pops his head in every now and then. I think he's actually sung a couple of more, since he retired. I think he's actually popped his head in and sang the anthem in a couple of Blues games. I want to say at a playoff game a couple of years ago. I believe his last year with us for the Blues was the year that we won the Stanley Cup back in 2019. So that's going to be kind of cool. I know that there are a lot of St. Louis folks who are planning to attend the game this weekend for the UFL Championship. Others are saying not so much. What I will say about that whole thing, I know there's a lot of people in St. Louis that, have some vitriol towards attending. Obviously I don't live in St. Louis anymore. I was fortunate enough to visit for the regular season finale. I'm not necessarily on the same, I don't know if you want to call it bandwagon, but I don't necessarily have vitriol towards the game, not attending and this, that, and the third. But what I will say is I understand this. And I think because of there being so many St. Louis fans that aren't attending, they're catching a lot of flack from fan bases of other teams, which I think is stupid. Really, I think there's been a lot of bickering that's just, kind of gotten a little out of hand from all parties involved, whether you're a Battlehawks fan or a fan of any one of the other teams. I think it's just gotten out of hand from all parties involved. But also understand this, folks. That game is happening on Father's Day. A lot of people, St. Louis is a very, very, very blue-collar, old-fashioned town, very family-oriented town. So it does not shock me necessarily that there are fans in St. Louis who are deciding to spend their Father's Way some way else other than attending the UFL Championship when their team's not playing. So that's kind of where I lie with it. Anyhow, folks, it's been real. First Facebook stream ever, which has been pretty cool. We will be having our shows air live on YouTube, Twitch, and all of the other things, just like we always do moving forward. We are planning on taking a little bit of a hiatus. I just kind of popped my head in and did an impromptu show. Had Chuck and Danny on the show with us tonight, which we thank them for that. But if you could do me a favor, whatever site you're watching from or listening from, do me a favor and like this video, subscribe to the channel, share with all of your friends, and we will catch you guys the next time. I believe we're looking at doing a show on July 13th. Maybe sooner, maybe not. We will definitely, and that's another reason why it's so important to subscribe to the show, is, if we end up doing a little impromptu show like this, maybe we will pop our head on and do a final recap of the NBA finals, the NHL, Stanley Cup playoffs, and the NBA playoffs as well. Maybe we'll have to get Chuck on here, or maybe some other friends I know that are very, very big NBA fans. So anyhow, I've been Meme. You guys keep being you, and we will see you when we see you.